What's up, guys? My name is Wesley Littlefield, and in this video of the Duck Hunting 101 series, we're going to talk about my favorite subject, concealment. So, concealment. I think it's one of the most overlooked portions of duck hunting and hunting in general. And it's not so much the camo, because everybody knows that we have to have camo, but it's actually blending in with the environment that you're in. You know, I can take these two blinds and set them in a different environment and they'd stick out like a sore thumb. So you've always got to remember, number one, on concealment, to match your environment. So, you know, I try to leave these brushed in as much as possible, but there's times when I do have to completely take it all out and rebrush them there on the spot. I can't bring any of my own grass or any kind of cover, because that environment or that field or that location, that pond, whatever I'm hunting, just doesn't match what I've got on my blinds. So concealment, you know, in a blind is pretty self-explanatory. You know, you want to brush it in, and the number one rule for me and my buddies, if you think you've got it brushed in enough, brush it in some more, because you're brushing it in the dark and it's not the same. When you finally get light on it, you're like, oh wow, it sticks out really bad and I should have brushed it some more. So whenever you think you've got it enough, just brush it in some more, and then you might be there. And I say might because I've thought that before, and like, oh, this looks great, and then the sun comes up and looks at it and goes, oh, no wonder the ducks are flaring. They can see, you know, I stick out like a sore thumb still. So that's something to remember. Brush it in again. You can never over brush your blind, I'll put it that way, unless, you know, you're throwing logs on top of yourself and you can't get up and shoot, but can't over brush your blind. So that's with like a layout blind or anything, or a dog blind. And obviously I don't have any on the front here, but if I was to go hunting, I definitely would have more on it. All right, to actually brush a blind, and if none of y'all have ever done it, it's really pretty simple. This grass came out in clumps. You can see we pulled it out by the roots, but there's times when you can't pull it out by the roots like that, or it's just not beneficial to do that. So I'll actually take a machete, and some of my other hunting videos you can see us chopping reeds down with a machete, and then we actually bend them over in half and shove it through your little loops to give it a little bit more bulkiness, and it'll hold in there a little bit better, and it helps push through the loop a little bit better. But like I said, this blind needs to be rebrushed. You don't want to be able to see any of the underneath, even if it's camo. I know this one's khaki, but even when it's camo, like my dog blind over here, I would still brush here. I'd still put another bundle here, of course here, all the way, more bundles here. You want it to look more like this right here. I mean, that is going to be the whole thing looking like that. It's going to look like a clump of grass just growing there, instead of kind of patchy, or, you know, like, it doesn't really look like it fits. If you're making your own blind and you're cutting your logs, don't just make one big square panel or whatever. You want to round your edges. You know, in nature, there's no perfect squares. I've seen a lot of guys just take sticks and stack them in a straight line all the way across in front of them and think that's enough. And that's nice, but you got to lay some sticks in and mix them in and make it look like it's just a brush pile that you're sitting behind, instead of somebody actually trying to build a blind. The next thing would be, I've seen guys, when they make those blinds too, they forget totally about the top. So they can be, you know, setting out away, like say you're hunting at a lake and the edge of the water's on out there away from a tree line. So they go up and set up their blind and they're blocked up front, but ducks are up top and they're circling, and you've got to remember that. So you've got to, I know in Arkansas one time we were hunting like a little levee pond, and we actually leaned the sticks back up over us, and we were leaning up against the pond dam, was what I would call it, and shooting, you know, having to pop up through it and shoot, but it was leaned over us and protecting us over the top and in front of us. Now, I know that there's inevitably going to be some diver guys and teal guys. Those are the two times that I get it. The divers are flying low to the water anyways. I mean, they're might as well be touching the water most of the time. And teal just don't seem to care. I get that, but any other time I've hunted, as far as waterfowl, they pick you apart, and you have to be brushed in and matching your environment, or you know what, matching your environment. That's what I prefer, and there's no other way to do it, in my opinion. Another thing with the ducks circling above, you've got to remember that when they do start to come in low, that they're going to be able to see humps. And like, I know, especially with my dog blind here, if we're hunting in a flat field and those geese are coming in, or those ducks start soaring in, getting lower, and start checking out the landscape back behind us, and they see flat, 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 hump, flat, 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 or even, you know, even with, if you've got layout blinds, you know, there's hump, 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 big hump, flat, 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 all the way around, then they're gonna think, I don't know about this. And it's just another thing to remember, that you've got to, when you, especially in a flat field, bunch up as close as you can to make it just look like, oh, there's just a little hill and that's kind of it. A clump of grass is what you're trying to imitate. I don't think you're gonna kill birds without it. You know, you can try, go out there and lay down in blue jeans and whatever, and you might get lucky and shoot one that's a mile high or whatever, but you're not gonna consistently kill birds if you are not able to hide. So if you're flaring birds, before you check the decoys, before you check anything else, make sure you're hidden. That includes your face. You know, if you've got to be wearing a mask, if you've got to paint it, whatever you want to do, that includes your hands. You know, a lot of guys will deck out in face paint and then they forget about their hands, and they're not wearing gloves, or their gloves get wet so they take them off. And so then when they're reaching for their shotgun or moving or something, grabbing a call, that white flashing, that lighter colored, or you know, the skin color just doesn't match the environment, so it flares birds. So you got to remember that with concealment too. And you know, guys, you just got to remember little stuff like that instead of going and blaming it on the decoys first, before checking anything else. Concealment is the key to success. And that's really all I have to say for it. You know, concealment is key to the success. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to check out the rest of these videos in the series. I hope that they're making you a better duck hunter. And if you've got any tips for me, let me hear it in the comments. See y'all later.